Right, Chris, before we start frying today, obviously we've got to check some basics. One of the first things we have to do is obviously check that we do actually have fat in the pans and nothing's fallen in them by mistake. The next thing that we have to do is actually put the gas on, the main gas pipe.
Right.
That one's on, okay. Then we need some power to the range, so we put the main electricity on, okay. As soon as we've done that, the red light actually tells us that our power's onto the range. The next thing that we have to do is obviously put the extraction system on, okay. Now when we put the extraction system on, it'll actually take about 90 seconds to actually clear the system. And as soon as the amber lights come on, that tells us the extraction system is clear of any fumes that have been left in there overnight, okay. Right. As soon as the amber light comes on, that tells us that we can actually light our pilot lights, okay. You'll hear 3 clicks now as all the pilots actually cut in, okay. As soon as they cut in, we can now actually set our dials. Now, we actually set our dials in 2 stages.
And why is that, Dougie?
Well, we turn them at about 140 degrees centigrade for the first meltdown, and the reason for that is, as soon as it's actually melted, okay, one of the things that we're going to do is actually sieve the pans out while it's at that temperature, right. Okay, to take anything that's maybe in the bottom of the pans out.
Carbon.
Okay, any carbon out. And the reason for that being, as soon as it goes over about 150 degrees centigrade, the particles start breaking down and that in turn will deteriorate our fat, okay? So what I'd like you to do now, Chris, if you want to check the depth of the pan for me and top it up, okay?
Here we go. We'll start at this end. Now I've stuck that in and you see it's exactly 2 inch.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's going to need about another block.
Right,
Bring it up to about 3 inch.
Okay.
Okay, move on to this one. And again you can see that's just about 2 inch.
Yeah.
I think that's going to need 2 blocks in because that's my fish pan.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on to this one. And again that's 2 inch.
Yeah.
So I'll probably put another one in that one.
Okay, right, okay. Right. I'll let you do that. We actually use animal fat, but I mean there's many types of fat that you can use and oils.
Yeah.
I mean there's palm oil, vegetable fats for a better term.
Yeah.
There's vegetable oils, groundnut oils, and obviously depending on where you are in the country is actually what people use. And my brother-in-law swears by groundnut oil, okay, and different people have different opinions of what's best and what's right for their business.
I use beef dripping.
Yeah, okay. Well, we use it because we actually gives it a better flavour in my opinion. So if you want to just top the pans up.
And what I'm going to do here, Dougie, is just lay it down.
Yeah.
So there's no splashback. And I find it's best to put the fat in the pan when it's nice and cool.
Yeah.
You know, to risk burning yourself.
Yeah. Right, Chris, now we've got the pans melted, and then the next thing we need to do is get some heat into our chip box and our fish cabinet. Okay, so we turn the chip box on, put the lights onto the cabinet, and that will ensure that the cabinet and the chip box is actually nice and hot when we open, so as the product's not going into a cold cabinet, i.e. it's preheated.
Right.
With our chip box, there's actually a heater at the top and there's a heater underneath, so it's important when people are serving that you actually tell them there is a heater on the top, so be very careful that their hands don't get there. And also when they're cleaning it out, when they take this out to clean it, that they don't have a cloth and get too close to the bottom, because they will actually burn their fingers, okay? Now before we actually go and get the fish and the chips ready to fry today, it's important that we actually leave the chip pan lids up, okay, and stay within earshot of the range, because should the thermostat not work or a problem occurs, we need to be within earshot. We need to be keeping a constant eye on every few minutes just to check that everything's okay. Because lots of dials are set at 140 degrees, okay. If for any reason they don't work effectively, okay, and the pans continue to burn, okay, or fire away, the last thing that we need is a fire. Now, with animal fat, it's going to smoke at around maybe 200 degrees centigrade, okay, and we've already got another 100 degrees which are actually going to catch fire, okay. But unfortunately, that could happen very quick. Within half an hour, if we were to go out the back and just have a cup of tea or maybe have a sandwich, okay, within half an hour the place actually could be on fire.
That's right,
so it is important that we keep a constant check on it, okay, because we mustn't rely on the safeguards that are built into the range, okay. We must also add some human element to it as well. Right, Chris, our pans are now up to 140 degrees, so before we tweak them up to the next stage, we're obviously going to have to just run the sieve through them and double check everything's fine. So if you can do that for us.
Yeah. Right, this is my sieve Dougie, nice and fine, so it gets all the carbon out. And what you want to do is use this action, starting at the back, working to the front, and lifting out.
Right.
Okay. You want to do that a few times. Nice and smooth, not too rough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tilting and moving on to your next one. Again, starting at the back and pushing towards the front. And it's important at this stage you're not too rough, because you don't want no splashback to burn yourself. You don't want to be breaking down your fat. Okay.
Also, other things that we find that people can often neglect is they don't realise that the filters that are in the back of the pan, if they don't clean them on a daily basis, any debris that gets caught on them can actually fall into the pan, and people don't realise that, and that also can actually deteriorate the fat. So it's important that we actually keep the filters clean. Not only gives us a better extraction system and more efficient, but does actually stop some muck going into the pan. So, right, Chris, the pan's up to 140. We've sieved them out. The next thing is obviously to set them ready for frying. So we set the temperature at 185 degrees centigrade. We do that for the first and the second pan today. Right. We're not going to take the third one up any more than what it is currently, because we probably won't be using it. So if we can keep that temperature around 140 degrees centigrade, one, the fat is on standby, for the want of a better term, but the most important thing is we're not actually breaking the fat down, because if we take it over 150 degrees centigrade, slowly the fat is breaking down, and that's the last thing that we need, is actually to be changing the fat in our pans.
That's right.
Indeed, by doing what we've done today, by replenishing at least 1/3 of our fat or oil on a daily basis, hopefully we should never actually have to replace or change our fat. So we now got to wait now a few minutes before it gets up to temperature, and then we can start frying.